No intro, so much to talk about. Let's get straight to it. Anything that I don't cover on this video, we'll cover it with Cozy in the Morning podcast. But let's start with the latest news on Eddie Nketiah. This is the latest on him. Arsenal are reported to have placed a £50 million price tag on striker Eddie Nketiah. Who 50 million price tag? That's incredible. Now listen, I'm one person that don't want Arsenal to be bullied in the transfer window. That is something that has always happened to us for a lot of years. We get bullied in the transfer window, like teams troll us pretty much. Like Juventus take Ramsey on a free, and then a year later they try to sell him to us. Like such kind of trolling, the way paid money for, let's say, Pepe and players like that, and the way Aubameyang has left on a free, Ozil has left on a free, and all of those players. We've always struggled in the transfer window. So I don't mind us asking for crazy prices for players. Personally, I don't think it's worth that. I'm sure most of you would agree that it's not worth that. But let's be honest, if Eddie Nketiah was coming from Portugal, or let's specifically, if he was coming from Benfica or coming from Ajax, or coming from Monaco or PSG or a team like that, Eddie Nketiah would be worth 60 million or 70 million. Like those Benficas and FC Ports would be asking for 70 million for their players. So when it's an England, like a player coming from England, then it's like, oh my goodness, it's not really worth that. Now, in the ideal world, we know that in terms of 50 million, is not worth that money. That's a lot of money. Like most of you would even be happy if someone paid us 20 million for Eddie Nketiah. That's what I mean. So 50 million is absolutely crazy. Like if we are able to pull out 50 million from someone, Edu and Atita give them a statue right outside the Emirates Stadium. In fact, give them 2 statues each. If you're able to get 50 million from this deal, it would be mind-blowing. Even if the structure is different, even if you're going to get paid in installments, whichever way, 50 million is absolutely crazy. On top of that, the teams that are linked to him are not really teams that would pay 50 million, the likes of Crystal Palace and teams like that. I wouldn't expect them to pay 50 million. If it was like, let's say, Dortmund one team and Bayern Munich one team and Barcelona one team, then you could argue, okay, those teams, maybe they could afford that 50 million, but that sounds like a very, very crazy price tag. And listen, when it comes to business, you have to start at a higher ground and then let the people who are interested in him negotiate it down. And then if we get to like 38, 40 million, you're like, hey, listen, you've already dropped 10 million from what you wanted. And then the teams would be like, okay, fine. But if you start like at 30 million, they could start from 15 million, and then the compromise would be like 22, 23 million. So I do understand why Arsenal have gone like that. He's an English player as well. He's still young in terms of age. He still has like 10, 12 years to go in his career. If he keeps on, if he stays fit and all, he still has a lot of years to go in his career. And I'm one person, again, that always believes that, yes, in terms of what Arsenal need and in terms of the levels that we are going, Eddie Nketiah is obviously not the answer that you are looking for. But in terms of if you're fighting for the top 4 and top 5 and he's coming off the bench, absolutely no problem. There's been some games here and there that he's done really, really well for us. But I still do believe, like, if you enter Crystal Palace or Fulham and plays every single day, he can easily get them 12, 13 goals in a season. Like, I don't think it's completely like crap that he'll only get 2 or 3 goals. No, if he gets 38 games out of 38, he can possibly get 12, 13 goals and maybe 3, 4 assists, But the kind of striker we are looking for, the kind of striker people are looking for me, I want someone who's going to take us completely to the next level, because I'm happy with Havertz and Jesus. I still think you're going to score 88 goals. So to get a striker, I want us to get a striker, but I want us to get a striker that we've never really even gotten, like an absolutely class striker who can score 10 games in a row. That is the kind of striker I want. And I don't think Eddie Nketiah will do that for us, unfortunately. And he's still an Arsenal boy, still from the Highland, so I want him to go wherever he's going to do well there. So I want him to get a good team and progress in his career as well. And I don't think we can offer him the opportunities that he wants right now, unfortunately. So all the best to him. But 50 million, do you guys think it would be crazy to get 50 million, or do you actually think it's worth that? Chelsea and all those teams are asking for 50 million for players like Gallagher. Why I don't think it's crazy is a team like Chelsea is asking for like 35 million for Brozier, a player who's always injured and never plays. Everton would ask you for 35 million for Calvert-Lewin. A player who's always injured. So Nketiah is rarely injured, and he has still scored some goals for Arsenal. He's got some hat tricks, he's got some braces, so he still scored some big goals against Chelsea, last minute winners against Man United. So he does have a kind of CV in the Premier League, and he's played in the Premier League for a lot of years now. So I do understand why. Another player who's looking kind of likely to leave, but I'd say out of these 3 players, Reece Nelson, Nketiah, and Smith Rowe, I say they kind of expect at least two of them to leave. I'm still saying the same. And the most likely to leave as of now is Reece Nelson. And then I'd possibly argue Nketiah. I'd say Smith Rowe has the best chance of staying, and this is the latest news on him. So, according to reports, Fulham and Crystal Palace have both made contact with Arsenal about Emile Smith Rowe. The club want over 40 million for the player. So, I think with Nketiah, there's a way we can compromise. I think there's a way we will take that down to like that 5 million or something. But with Emile Smith Rowe, I can't see us taking it to like 20 or 25 or something like that. And I really don't think any is going to match that 40 million. We can say Nketiah, someone can say, okay, fine, that 5 million, but I can't see anyone saying 40 million for Smith Rowe because of his injuries and because of his lack of playing time the last couple of years. For me, I want Smith Rowe to stay. I still feel like he can do something for us. But if he doesn't stay and we can use that money to buy another position that we need, I have no problem with Emile Smith. So, we're moving on because I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm not a player fan. We need to move on. Like if you're told, listen, we really need that 25 million, 30 million to get this particular striker, and the only way to do that is by selling Smith Rowe. There's nothing we can do. But he has the better chance of staying out of all the players that have been linked to the move away with Highland boys. This is what you've been told again yesterday. CBS Sports understands that Emile Smith Rowe traveled out a week before the rest of the squad to get a head start on his fitness work. Nelson, meanwhile, favors a move away from the club. So Smith Rowe is already back in terms of the training and stuff. Now, that could be because of two reasons. Him returning could be because of two reasons. Either one, he's coming to finalize his move quicker or to come and make his decision sit down with the team and make a decision. Or he feels like, listen, I want to stay. I want to fight for my position next season, whichever position it's going to be. I want to come like 2-3 weeks before the rest of the team, come back to the camp and train before the rest of the team, get myself fit, work on some things, and maybe next season I get some opportunities actually starting from preseason, because he will have chances in preseason. Where he's going to be here in preseason, we'll have chances because there's a chance Trossard could reach the quarterfinal, semifinal. Same with Rice and Saka. Same with Harvard and all those guys. All their teams could easily reach the semifinal or final. So there could be spaces there in the number 8 role, maybe the left side. If Martinelli goes far and Trossard goes far, maybe there's a chance to even start a couple of games in those positions. And if he works out and plays like he did in 2021, 2022, he might even start the season depending on the fitness of the rest of the players. So maybe that could be a reason that he's also back quicker to work on his fitness to get an advantage ahead of the rest of the players in the squad. But it's the one of the two. Either he's coming to finalize a move, or he's coming to get fit quicker than the rest of the team. But either way, for me, I'd like to keep him. You can't just sell everyone. You can't sell Smith Rowe, Vieira, Partey, Jesus, Zinchenko. You have to keep players on the bench because you're not going to sign 8-9 players. And last season we were using like 14 players. We need at least to be using 18, 19 players next season. And to do that, you have to keep players like Smith on the bench. Out of Nketiah, Nelson, and Smith, I don't think you can sell all three of them. You have to keep at least one of them on the bench. And then from Zinchenko, Jesus, some of you want both of them to leave. You have to keep at least one of them on the bench. And then when it comes to like Vieira, Partey, and all those players, you have to keep at least one of them as well on the bench. Maybe even both of them, who knows, to have a decent bench. But one way we could use Smith for this transfer window is a swap deal. And could it work? We've already talked about Nelson and Eze, but now could it be Smith Rowe and Eze? Now let's talk about the latest on Eze. Crystal Palace are bracing themselves for interest in Eberechi Eze, with Arsenal, Man City, and Tottenham believed to be among those considering a move for the player, who is likely to cost more than 60 million. So I did put a poll asking you guys which one you'd prefer between Eze and Nico Williams in terms of a deal, because both of them have been into Arsenal heavily recently, and that was my question: who would you want between the two? The current results, as I check right now, the current results stand at this: 75% said Nico Williams, and 25% say Eze. This is from 810 votes. 75% want Nico Williams ahead of Eze. Now, that was if Nico Williams is 48 million and Eze 60 million. I think that I think even if it was the same price, I think kind of many people would sway towards Nico Williams. Now, Eze is a tricky one. a very good player. I think he's a very good player. He scored 11 goals last season. The previous season he had 10, so he can score goals for you. He can assist. He's very good from set pieces, dribbling, creating chances. He can play on the left. He can play as a number 8. He can do all that. He can play as a number 10 as well, but you already have Odegaard in that position. So if we play him in the number 8, that means we're going all out for it in terms of having Eze and Odegaard. And for me, I feel like the number 8 position is a position that we also need someone who can defend, someone who can attack, someone who can defend. Xhaka, Rice, those kind of players. Having Eze, because he had a good argument the other day saying, if you bring Eze, you might as well keep Smith Rowe. But do you guys think it's the same? Do you think it's worth it, like getting rid of Smith Rowe for 30 million and then getting Eze for 60 million? Or do you think you rather just, if you're bringing in Eze, you rather just keep Smith Rowe in the team and give him a chance? How do you guys feel? But maybe this could be one of the swap deals, a potential swap deal as well. Maybe give them Smith Rowe plus 20, 25 million. That could happen. But Eze, Crystal Palace are bracing themselves for a move. It kind of seems like he might end. I seriously don't see him at Man City, because Man City bought Nunes late in the last transfer window. I could see him going to a Tottenham, but also Tottenham have Maddison, and Maddison does not really play on the wing. And if they want to strike as well, which they do, and Richarlison is also back, if Son moves back to the left side, I don't see where Eze plays unless they're going all out to 2 number 10. So again, Eze would want a place where he's going to play, and Crystal Palace is definitely going to play every single day. At Arsenal and Man City and Tottenham, I don't see him playing every day, and it depends. If he's happy to be on the bench in some games, absolutely fine. Now, how many of those teams really need him? Do Man City really need Eze? I don't think so. And do Arsenal really need Eze? I don't think so. Like, those teams need players in other positions, and Tottenham kind of need a striker. But whichever team is going to get him is still a very, very good player. And I'd be wide. Like, if you're into like a Tottenham and he's playing with Maddison, I'd be like, oh, they're going to definitely create more chances to potentially score more goals. But that's the latest on Eze. If we don't get Eze, could we potentially get someone like a Neto? What's the latest on Pedro Neto? According to Alex Crook, Pedro Neto is on the radar of Arsenal, Man City, Tottenham, and Newcastle. Wait, that's the same teams as Eze, right? Man City, so yeah, pretty much Arsenal, Tottenham, and Man City all want Neto, and Newcastle this time also want Neto. Wolves are willing to listen to offers of around £60 million. So both of them are worth £60 million. Okay, now if it was £60 million for both, which it is, and you have to get one of them, who would you choose? For me, there I would say Eze, because Neto's injuries are too many. Eze had I think an Achilles tendon injury in 2021, and last season maybe missed 6 games through injury. But Neto is a lot of injuries. Now, if both of them are available, again, for Man City, they already have, players like Bernardo Silva, Foden, Doku, Grealish all playing on the wings. And they have Newcastle, unless they sell Almiron. Tottenham, maybe they could use him on the right side if they're not happy with Kulusevski and such kind of players. But for me, I wouldn't be too mad if we missed out on Pedro Neto. When he's fit, one of the best wingers in the league. But how many times is he fit in a season? You could potentially have him for like 12 games in the whole season. And that is a big problem. He's currently playing for Portugal. He's doing well off the bench. Could see him maybe playing off the bench for Portugal against Georgia in the last game. Let's see what happens with that. But both of them, very, very good players. But for me, I'm looking at needs. If Pedro Neto was like 20 million, even with the injuries as a backup for Saka, I'd be like, bring him for 20 million. But 60 million, that means that your main target, if we already had a striker and we were going into this season wanting, I don't know, a winger and a midfielder, just that, then you can spend 50, 60 million on players like Olise and Pedro Neto. But if the main thing that you want is strike and then midfielder, for me, I want a midfield and then strike and then winger. That's where I want us to spend more money. The midfield and the striker, not really the winger, because we already have Saka, Trossard, and Martinelli. No problem with adding a backup, but I don't want us to go and spend 8 million on the wing and then not buy a midfield and a striker. I don't think that makes sense for me. But let's see how that one develops as well. Now, another player who we don't know what his future holds is Nuno Tavares, and this is the latest on him. Nuno Tavares has said, my priority is to return to Arsenal. After that, only the future will tell. Everyone knows that I have another year left on my contract. There have been a few approaches, but I leave it to whoever is in charge of my future. So For Nuno Tavares to stay, I think it will be an absolute miracle. I don't think it's going to happen. You're going to cover the left back situation on the podcast. I don't think it's going to happen. You're being linked to a left back, left-sided player. Tien is still at the club. Now with the injury, he's still at the club. Timber is still at the club. Tomias is still at the club. Zinchenko is still at the club. Where does Nuno Tavares fit in? I don't see where he fits in. Now, how much are we going to get for him? Because you're kind of struggling to get money for players like Lokonga. If you could get the same money that we bought him for, around, I don't know, 12, 13 million, I would take that. Even if you get 10 million, I'd actually take that. To be honest, I don't think we're going to get any more than that, unless he goes to a team in the Premier League and starts and has an incredible campaign, and then we can get 25 million, maybe. But for example, he went to Nottingham, he was on the bench most of the games, and his value keeps dropping. And now that he has 1 year left on his contract, if he goes out on another loan, unless he signs a new deal, which I can't see, if he goes out on another loan, that means he's leaving on a free next season. So we have to try to sell him for whatever we can get and use that money elsewhere in terms of Nuno Tavares. Now, in terms of, we're going to cover it more in detail tomorrow, but the left back situation, according to News and Ticks and Charles on Charles Watt's channel, I've always been told that between Tomiyasu, White, and Timber, they're seen as the Saliba cover. Now, they're looking for a left-sided player. Maybe you're going to use those players on the right side, like the Saliba and the White. So White and Saliba's position, we're also going to use Tomiyasu and Timber in those positions. So that leaves the left side kind of open with Zinchenko, and you don't know if Zinchenko is going to be here. In an ideal world, not an ideal world, I don't want to use that word because I wouldn't want Tavares to be starting for us. Like in an ideal world for him, he'd think, listen, I'm going to play, or for a teeny, but we are looking for a left-sided player, and Zinchenko is still at the club, and all the others are still at the club. So he's not really going to get too many chances, unfortunately. So we have to try and sell him right away, basically. Lastly, let's talk about the goalkeeper situation. This is the latest from Gerard Romero from Spain. Garcia from Espanyol is the future goalkeeper of Arsenal. The 23-year-old was just promoted to La Liga with his team. Now, I don't know if he means fast, like to replace Ray, or to come and replace Ramsdale as a second-choice goalkeeper. Now, we know we're still looking for a second-choice goalkeeper. That one is not sorted out yet. It's going to be very busy. The moment the Euro starts approaching the end, like I think because no deals have really been done in June for majority of the teams, even in terms of outgoings, it's going to be a very busy July. We don't know if Partey is going to be here or not. We don't know about Smith Rowe. We don't know about Nelson. We don't know about Nketiah. Tomiyasu be linked with moves in terms of swap deals. We don't know the latest on Ramsdale. We can bring in Zinchenko and Jesus into the conversation. Vieira, the players that we've been linked to. I think there's going to be a lot of deals happening in July. It's going to be a busy one. We're going to be getting like done deals like every single day, not just updates and rumors. No, you're going to actually be getting done deals and medicals every single day in terms of players leaving and players coming in. But I don't know much about this goalkeeper. As they say, he's just been promoted to the league, so he's not even in the league last season. So let's see what happens with that. I think it all depends on Ramsdale. Raya is definitely staying. He's going to sign, but now it depends on the rest of our goalkeeping situation in terms of Ramsdale. But that was a lot to talk about today. Tomorrow we're going to cover a lot more because there's still news on Thomas Partey and our left back situation, linked to players from Real Sociedad. You're going to talk about all that tomorrow. Let me know what you make about everything you've talked about. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you guys on the next